My back hurts, y'all. My back. Oh, okay. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And in today's video, I'm gonna be telling you some mistakes as a phlebotomist that you can avoid, how you can fix it, things like that. Some of them, not all of them, because there's a lot of stuff that I probably haven't even came in contact with. But in this video, I'm gonna explain how to either avoid them or deal with them. So if you're interested, then stay tuned.
Savage bitch, in your trap and take over. Name another bitch that's colder. I just bought a brand new Rover. I don't even drive no more, I got a chauffeur. Took off, man, they asking me to slow up. Getting wiser and my money getting older. And that bitch, I ain't even gonna hold it. And that bitch, and I thought that they told it.
Okay, so just to start off, y'all seen how my back was hurting when I first got on the video? So that brings me to my first tip. I have been off this whole entire weekend. It is Sunday. Yesterday was Saturday. I don't know why I was about to look at the calendar, but it is Sunday. Yesterday was Saturday, and the whole time I was in bed, except for yesterday recording videos, and I'm just in so much pain. But I'm trying to push these videos out for you guys, so I'm gonna do it. My lower back hurts, and I know exactly why. It's my fault. So for that being said, when you are drawing blood from a patient that's in a bed, please raise the bed up. Save your back, save your bones, save your muscles. Pull the bed up. Don't try to be like me and bend over. Cause now look, my back hurt. It hurts really bad. My lower back hurts really bad. It's cause either I will bend over or I will squat down and take the blood. Don't ever do that. You are hurting your muscles. You are hurting your back. Avoid all that. Just put the bed up. But when you put the bed up, make sure that you put it down as well, because the nurses or whoever is going to tell your boss and you that, hey, you didn't put the bed down. If the patient would have tried to get out the bed, they would have fell. So you want to make sure that you put the bed all the way down. If you can't put the bed up, then grab a chair in the room to sit down on while sticking this patient, because you don't want to put yourself at risk. You know what I'm saying? Hurting your back, and in the middle of a stick, you drawing the blood and it's moving very, very slow, and your back is giving out and you fall, or, you know, legs give out from bending over, back gives out from bending over. Just to avoid all that, raise the bed. And there shouldn't be a reason why beds can't be raised. All beds should be able to be raised. So even the stretchers have a little foot part where you can raise, you know, the bed. So just make sure you put the patients down. Just make sure you put the patients down. That's all I'm saying. But don't be like me, because this hurts. I'm gonna try to stick it through the video though. So that just brought me to my first tip, but I wrote 10 tips. That was one of the 10 tips that I had. So our next tip is how to catch rolling veins. To avoid puncturing through the veins, to avoid going under the veins, to avoid going through the skin instead of in a vein. You know how, well, I never done it, but you know how when you stick and you're scared to go deep, and instead of sticking through the vein or in the skin, you basically, oh, hold on. This is the patient's skin and this is the needle, and you're basically sticking back up. I never seen it happen, but I know it can happen, because you can see that needle when it's about to happen. That's all I'm gonna say, because there is some veins that are very, very like surfaced, and you have to kind of like manipulate the vein in the hand or the arm and your needle and your technique, so you don't go through the skin, you go in the vein. So how to catch rolling veins. I'm gonna try to do a class when I get my money right, and I'm gonna get an arm and stuff and teach you guys how to do certain stuff with a real arm and blood and stuff. But when you have a vein, say this is the patient arm, this is the vein, this is a weird representation, this is the arm, this is the vein. So you feel the vein. You feel the vein in the arm, right? You want to pull that skin back and then stick. So I'm gonna show you guys with my arm. So you want to put the tourniquet on real tight. Make sure you can feel that vein. And when you feel that vein, you clean the spot and you pull like this. You pull with one hand and you stick with the other. That keeps the vein from rolling, flipping, moving to the left, moving to the right. So you're able to get that vein. You have to pull the skin. Pull down. It holds the vein in place. Because there are some veins that do like this little swiggle. This little move. But when you pull it, it makes it straight. And you can stick. So that's how you can catch rolling veins and avoid missing a stick and sticking a person for no reason. But everybody, you know, not everybody's gonna get every stick. Everybody have their days, but that's just one lesson that I learned. Please hold the vein. Anchor is called anchoring the vein. Okay. Blood squirters. There are some blood squirters. What I mean is when you stick, depending on how you stick and how you remove the needle, the arm or the hand can squirt out blood. So to avoid this is a mistake, because if it gets on you, you have to clean and wash with soap and stuff. And depending on if you stuck yourself or not, you will have to get tested for diseases, so will the patient. So to avoid blood squirting on your face or in your hair and stuff like that, wear a face mask and a shield. Okay, so we already wear face masks everywhere we go, but we have just started wearing, well, no, we didn't just start wearing shields. Phlebotomy been wearing shields anyway, because blood just squirts. It's a vein, a person's arm, a person's hand is unpredictable. So to avoid getting blood splashed into your face or hair, you can wear a hairnet or like a nurse hat. I can find them on Amazon for the low, or you can wear a face mask, or you can wear both. This is to avoid the blood squirters in the hospital or plasma center. There was a lot of blood squirters in the plasma center. A lot. I'm talking about a lot. So yeah. To avoid infection, always clean the access site. Always. You don't know if this patient already has like MRSA or something on their skin. You want to make sure you clean the access site, especially if they're, in general, you want to make sure you clean the site. They're coming from outside. You don't want to just stick them with a needle and get the blood, because then it's going to get that dirt with the blood. You want to make sure the site is nice and clean. And you want to make sure that when you clean the spot with alcohol, that it's dry. Because I'm telling you, the patient going to jump. They're going to feel it, because it's like you just cleaned them with fresh alcohol and then you're going to stick them while it's wet. You want to make sure that it's dry, because it can mess up the test results and it could hurt the patient, because you're sticking them with alcohol and you're making a hole in their body. Like, alcohol hurts, it burns. Okay, so just think about you in that situation and make sure that the alcohol is completely dry. Oh yeah, and also wear your gloves. I noticed there's some older ladies at my job that don't wear gloves when they stick. These are ladies that's in outpatient. They just stick without gloves and the patients let them. I would never. Make sure you wear your gloves. Everybody's so worried about COVID. They're not worried about HIV. They're not worried about AIDS. They're not worried about MRSA. They're not worried about C. diff. They're not worried about all the other stuff. There's more than just COVID out there, y'all. So make sure you wear your gloves when you're sticking. You don't want to accidentally stick yourself, and you know, just wear your gloves in general. Touching blood, like they would literally wipe somebody's blood, their access site, without gloves. Don't do that. Don't be them. That's nasty. That's really disgusting, and that's why I had to get out of that department. I moved to a different department because I couldn't watch that. And you're not finna, oh, deny it. No, don't touch me. Don't. I said, don't touch me, because that's nasty. To avoid being sued, always announce who you are and what you are doing. Now, why I say this is because if you just walk in the patient's room and you're just like, not saying anything, not saying, hey, how are you? My name is Denaya, and I'm here to take your blood. If you just walk in the room and start playing with their arms, poking at it, and about to stick them, that's going to cause a whole altercation. You don't know if this patient, you don't know if the patient really wants their blood taken. You don't know if the patient wants to refuse. You don't know if the patient knows what's going on. Like, a patient could easily say, oh, this person stuck me without my permission, or this person didn't announce who they are, what they're doing, stuff like that. And everywhere you go, the patient is always right. So when I walk inside of a room, I say, hey, my name is Denaya, I'm from lab, I'm here to take your blood. And they'd be like, no, I'm not giving no blood. Then, okay, I hope you feel better, you have a nice day, and you walk out. If they be like, oh, okay, I guess I'm gonna get some blood, and then you take their blood, and you feel, some patients don't want you going to hands at all. Like, I have some patients that's like, no, you cannot go in my hands. Now, you can kind of work with that, because you can go in this area, you can go up here, you can go on the side, wherever you find a vein. But if the hand is where you need to go, you do not have to stick this person. You can ask another person to try, because maybe they can find something that you couldn't find, just to avoid going through the hands. Because if the patient say they don't want you going to hands, and you say, oh, I need to go in the hands, then they're going to refuse the whole stick, and you need that for the lab. So you want to try to obey the patient's, you know, request of not going in the hands and stuff like that, to avoid, you know, being sued. Because people have been suing a lot lately. Y'all want to watch out for that. Just saying. Okay, so working at the hospital, I have dealt with some patients with edema. Edema is swelling fluid between tissues. So it's like usually people with edema have kidney problems or other underlying problems with their organs, and so their body can give out waste, like they can't like poop or pee or whatever, so that fluid builds up on them and it get really big. So some people hands, you see the way my hands are? Yes, I have a fat hand, yes, but some people hands are like this big and bubbled up. So what you can do to find the vein and avoid sticking fluid is, because half of the times when you stick patients with edema on them, once you stick, you're gonna pull fluid. Like, you know how you pull blood, like when you get a vein and blood automatically comes? Yeah, fluid will automatically come into the tube, and you're gonna be like, what the? Yeah. So you wanna push like this. You're like, hey, my name is such and such, I'm here to take your blood. Most of the times patients with edema are in ICU and they're unconscious, but I still announce myself because they can still hear. So I still announce myself, and they still like flinch when they're stuck or whatever, or they'll still move. So I still announce myself with those patients. So I grab their hands, I'll feel on it a little bit. Most of the time they are cold. That's another thing. You have to wake the veins up, so you got to feel on them a little bit. Don't be scared to cop a feel, okay? On their hands, arms. That's it. So warming it up, doing like this, you know, making it pop up. Of course, you want to have your tourniquet, but you want to make sure you warm up the veins because they have edema. So you already want the veins to pop, so you want to warm it up. You want to pluck to make it pop out, bounce, juicy, and you want that tourniquet tight. Now, this is what I do. I don't know if this is right or wrong, but this is what I do. Patients with really bad edema in their hands, and that's the only place you can get it from, because they have IVs in both of their arms. They'll have IVs right here, and they'll have an IV right there in both of their arms, because they're hooked up to everything. So what I would do is I would not use a tourniquet, because in my experience, I see that when I use a tourniquet with a patient that has really bad edema in their hands, it makes their hands pop out even more, and then fluid will start to seep out of their pores. So to avoid all that, I don't use a tourniquet. I do warm them up a little bit. I do like this, and I do a little, sometimes the ICU unit will have some warm packs that you just crush and it'll warm up, and you can put on their hands for a little bit. And then so when I do that, I'll hold it and I'll do a little dance and I'll sing. Most of the times I sing to the patients, even though they probably don't like it. I'll sing like Beyonce, Rihanna. Like, I won't sing nothing crazy like a little dirt. Like, I was just singing like little, you know, little sweet songs and stuff like that. So, and then I would talk to him like, I'm just watering your hand, honey, or we're trying to get this vein. You gonna give me this vein? You gonna give me some blood? Like, I'll just talk to him a little bit, because I know they can still hear. So then after it warms up, I'm gonna press. You keep pressing because it's gonna squish. So when you press, veins are gonna pop up. Trust me, because I've sucked multiple. Because when I first got to the hospital, I was like, how am I gonna stick these people? But hear me out. It does pop up when you press and you warm that vein up. So I press, and the vein will just a purdy and perky. So once you press, you want to clean, let it dry, and then like it'll have like it's so puffed up, it'll have like a hole where you press that, showing the veins, and it will slowly come back up. So you have time to wipe it and let it dry, and you go for the stick, and then boom, it flows. I don't use the tourniquet because it's harder to press, because while you're pressing and the tourniquet on, it makes the hand blow up even more, and when you're pressing, fluid just squirts everywhere. So I stick patients with edema without a tourniquet on their hands. Their arms is a different story, but on their hands, I don't use a tourniquet. So that is what edema is. A blown vein. A blown vein is when you don't use the right needle or the right technique when holding the needle. Or you stuck in the same spot somebody else did, and it was, okay, so if you see somebody with bruises on their hands, don't stick right there, okay? Save them the trouble. Save you the trouble. Don't stick right there, because as you can see, if they're bruised in a spot where somebody sticked, it's blown. Hematoma, blown, 1 out of 2. Do not stick there, because you're just going to cause the patient pain, and you're not really going to get a good result when trying to stick a vein that's already blown, because it looks like it's there, but it's not there. Like, and that's another tip I'm going to do next. But so don't, you have to use the right size needle. Like, okay, I don't have trouble. I don't like using straight needles, but you have to use straight needles. You have to use straight needles, and you have to use butterfly needles, because there's a needle for every vein. Arms, straight needles. If it's a big vein, straight needles. If it's a little vein, butterflies. If it's in the hands, butterflies. The only time if you must need to use a butterfly and you see that the vein is big and it's juicy, you're like, okay, I'm using straight needles. If the patient's like, no, I want a butterfly, then just switch to the butterfly. That'll be your only excuse. But if it's a big juicy vein, a straight needle. Okay? That avoids a lot of blown veins. That avoids a lot of hematomas. And make sure you hold your angles correctly. Because when you're holding your angles, let me look this up. Because honestly, I forgot. I just know how to hold it. I don't know exactly what degree it is. So we're gonna be precise when we're telling somebody something. Oh, see, when I was telling you guys about anchoring the vein, it says, here's a better description. It says, hold the patient's arm and placing a thumb below the venipuncture site. Ask the patient to form a fist so the veins are they pop out more. Enter the vein swiftly at a 30-degree angle or less to introduce the needle along the vein as the easiest angle of entry. So a 30-degree angle. That's what they said. So I'm gonna look it up to make sure. 15 to 30 degrees. You should hold your needle 15 to 30 degrees. That goes for straight needles. Butterflies is a 10 to 15 degree vertical angle to patient's arm. Like my back. Like I was saying, guys, I do not know the exact number of holding the vein, of holding the needles. I just know how to hold it when I'm working. So it says for a butterfly, 10 to 15 degree vertical angle to patient's skin. And it says for a straight needle, 15 to 30 degree angle to the patient's skin. So I'm gonna find pictures so I can put it up, but that's how you hold your needles. You don't want to have, when you're sticking somebody, you don't want to have the bevel down. You want to have the bevel up. And the bevel is the opening part of the needle. Make sure you always stick a person with the bevel up. That will also save you a lot of trouble as well. Never flip the needle or anything like that. Bevel is always up. Okay. Hemolysis. Okay. Hemolysis is a ruptured red blood vessel cells shaken tube. Using a 25 gauge needle, which is too small. So that's why we invert the anticoagulant tube to ensure that the alcohol of the site is dry. So to avoid hemolysis in the tubes, make sure you invert your tubes and make sure the alcohol, remember when I told y'all to make sure the alcohol is dry? Make sure that alcohol is dry. I'm gonna put the screenshot up as well because you want to make sure you do this. And sometimes, depending on what the test for in the tubes, the needles could be too small. The 25 needles is really small, which makes the blood flow a little bit slower. The bigger needles, the faster the blood flows. What I mean by the faster the blood flows, once you stick, the blood will come right out, depending on how big the needle is. Some needles are way too small. So you want to make, that's why I say you want to make sure. Okay, so some veins are just way too small or big for certain types of needles. Just like the straight needles, you're not supposed to use on older people with small veins in their hands. You're supposed to use the butterfly needles. And nice juicy veins, you're not supposed to use butterfly needles. So certain veins are for certain needles and certain needles are for certain veins. With that being said, we're going to move on to the last topic, which is, well, the last tip, which is a hematoma. A hematoma is a bad bruise. It happens when an injury causes blood to collect and pour under the skin. The pooling blood gives the skin a spongy, rubbery, lumpy feel. A hematoma is usually not a cause for concern. And usually to get over a hematoma, you could put a cold press or ice pack for 20 to 30 minutes for the next 48 hours following injury to reduce the swelling. So most times when a patient has hematoma, it's because, you know how when we dig, us phlebotomists dig, which means we probably missed a vein. We pull out and we go in the vein. We start getting a little bit of blood, but then we either move too far to the left or too far to the right, and we accidentally pull out of the vein, and the blood that's pulling. So the blood is still pulling kind of a little bit, but also with the blood pulling, the blood is also pulling into the tube, but it's also pulling out the vein underneath the skin. So as the blood is coming into your tube, it is going up, it's blowing up like real big. I've seen some really big, bad blown up veins, and I was just like, oh my gosh. So you want to make sure when you're digging, I don't dig for too long. I only do a little, I'll probably do like 2 moves to the left or the right, but I don't go in and out, in and out. A lot of people go in and out, which will cause a hematoma. So you want to make sure you look out for that and be careful as well. Okay, so I almost forgot this tip. When you're feeling for a vein, please make sure you feel it. Don't just, oh, I see a vein and go for it. Because half of the times when you see a vein, it's not juicy enough. It looks like it's a big juicy vein, but it's really a flat vein, and you go for it. You either miss it, it either rolls on you, or it gives you nothing. It barely flows. Please feel before. The last thing you want to go by is see. Go through touch first. Make sure it's juicy, it's bouncing, it's in there. But the last thing you want to do is stick somebody based off what you see. You want to stick first, because you know how Caucasian people, you can see their veins. Not all the veins that you can see on Caucasian people, and there's some African Americans where you can see veins. Not all the veins that you can see are good veins. So you want to make sure you are feeling to avoid unnecessary sticks and patient aggravation from being sick so many times, stuck so many times. So my advice would be to feel rather than to see, because I made that mistake a lot of times, being like, oh, well, I see this good green vein right here, and it moves so slow, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna give me anything. The blood clots. So you want to base your stick off of feel mostly. The last thing you want to resort to is what you see. You want to feel. Now, some you can feel and you can see, but it got to be real juicy and real bouncy. You don't want to be like, oh, I see it, and then when you touch it, it goes flat. You want a real juicy vein. The last thing, I'm gonna say this one more time, the last thing you want to go by is what you see. It's all about the finger touch, the tips, okay? Now, some veins you can see, and they're really good, but you have to feel it first, okay? Make sure you feel. That's all I gotta say. I just had to come back to y'all. I just had to come back to that one point for y'all because I made that mistake so many times. So, especially in the hands. There's a lot of veins you can see, but they're not good enough. They don't give you enough blood. They're flat veins. They're not juicy enough, and the blood will clot as you're trying to pull it. It won't pull fast enough. So, yeah, that's another little tip. That's the last tip. So I'm about to go, you guys. That's all the tips that I have for this video, and my back is starting to really kill me, so I'm gonna get up and walk around or whatever. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it helps you. I hope it prevents your mistakes, or if you had some of these mistakes, you know how to, you know, work through it or work around it or avoid it completely. So if you like the video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'll be posting once a week, if not more than once a week. We're coming back with these videos, guys. So I hope you guys are enjoying the content just like I'm enjoying putting them out and editing them for you guys. So y'all stay blessed, stay cautious, keep your mask on, keep your hands washed, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye. Okay, move too much. Oh, yeah. See y'all.